Okay, good morning, everyone. And as you all know, during the night, the refugees have arrived here in the city of Yonkers at the Ramada Inn on Tuckahoe Road. Again, with no plan, with very little notice, obviously no resources, additional resources being provided to the local community to deal with this influx. But anyway, we have now 14 families, mostly single women with babies. We can have the potential of up to 100 at the Ramada Inn. It's my understanding there will be no additional sites here in the city of Yonkers. But as I've said, they are now our guest, and Yonkers is an immigrant city, and we will treat the refugees with dignity and provide them the support that they need. At the same time, we're going to continue to drive for accountability from our friends to the south in New York and our friends at the state capitol in Albany, because I'm certain that the $1 billion that was provided to New York City to help deal with this crisis wasn't provided just to do what other communities have done, which is to ship from one place to the other. That's not fair to the asylum seekers. It's certainly not fair to the residents of the city of Yonkers. And so we have work to do. We're going to do that. But I'm also going to continue to call on the governor to work to come up with a solution for local governments, because this, as we all know, is not going to, the problem's not going to go away. It's going to continue, and we're going to have to come up with ways of making this happen. I recently had a phone call with someone in the mayor's office where I asked, where else are individuals going? Where else are families going in Westchester? And I got, well, you know how expensive it is outside of Yonkers. Again, so what's happening here? Does this mean that the families will only go to the poorer communities? And certainly that's, something that, as a budgetary issue, is something that we have to deal with, because we don't know what the health care needs are. We don't know what Department of Social Services will have to deal with, though the county executive has been on my side and talking to me every day for this entire weekend. We don't know, though we are being told that there are no school-aged children coming at the moment, but we also know that that can change at any time. And when you have as many as 100 families, I don't know how many children could be associated with 100 families. I don't know what the average is, but I do know that if you're talking about children who don't speak English, who've had no formal education, I would let the superintendent speak about this, but I would think that that would fall into some type of special ed. And again, these things are for a budget that is 1/80th the size of New York City's budget. These are issues that will have catastrophic effect on the local budgets. And so that's why, again, I implore the governor to be with us, work with us on a plan that provides funding, that gives, and that is fair, frankly. We're willing to do our part in the city of Yonkers, but it has to be something that is shared by all. So with that, I'm going to ask the Council President, she'd like to say a few words, Lakeisha Collins-Bellamy. I'm also going to let the Superintendent say a few words too, and then we'll open up for questions. So with that, Lakeisha Collins-Bellamy, Council President.
Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, everyone. As the Council President and Budget Chair, I want to ensure you all that we hear your voices and your calls coming from the residents of the city of Yonkers that elected us to do just that, to run this city. As we are in the midst of our budget and we're constraining numbers to figure out how to cut costs to stay within our $1.4 billion budget. However, we are also a migrant city. We are also a city of immigrants who encourage people to be open to other diverse communities. However, we are calling on New York State, we are calling on New York City to contribute to ensure that we have the resources available, whether it's for health care or education of the asylum seekers who have come to the city of Yonkers. We have welcomed them. There are 14 families. We have brought them here. They're at the Ramada end, and we have been in contact with the state and with New York City to try to get the resources, and we won't stop until we have the resources to assist with the asylum seekers who come here yesterday. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Council President. Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Edwin Casada.
Thank you, Mayor, and good morning, everyone. You know, I echo the call and the statements of the mayor when he indicates that we need a plan. We need an action plan that shows support for the residents of this city as they endure something that they have not dealt with before, and at the same time support and empathy and care for our new guests to our city. This is new to our work as well. So we in the education system, we are preparing. You know, what's the academic support that they need? What is the social emotional support that they need? Where do we have capacity to be able to receive these young people when they are ready to enter school? The fact is that they are now members of this community, and as members of this community, we are a caring community that supports those individuals who need us most. So the mayor, the council, they are ready to support them, but so will the educational system. We will be ready to support them, and we want to work collaboratively with the administration to ensure that our thinking, our thought processes are aligned, and we also call, as the educational system, we call on the city of New York, we call the state. We ask the state education department to provide funding to be able to provide all the support that these young people, new to our country, new to our city, will need. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Casada. With that, are there any questions? Yes.
There's 14 families and 15 to 100 families total, and how much capacity is built at that hotel right now?
Well, that hotel has availability for 100 rooms. So that's why I'm saying that they have the capacity of 100. I'm assuming that it's one room per family. Maybe it's less than that, but we know that that's the. So far, the initial response was 100, then it became 50, and so and anybody knows who's been dealing with Albany or New York City this entire weekend, it's a moving target. You know, goes up, goes down, but right now we're at 38.
And these are being paid by New York City, or who's paying the rest?
The room and board, well, obviously the room and board will be the cost beared by New York City. There are, and then, you know, what do we have? Well, we have whatever additional costs that may come about in terms of first responders, in terms of healthcare, the Westchester residents and taxpayers, as we are as well, will deal with the additional social services costs that will be provided, and you know, and that's why we'll work very, very closely with Westchester, and of course, the big kahuna could be education, depending on what that number is. And you know, even in Yonkers, we offer adult educational opportunities too, and they obviously will be available to you know, first-time English learners. So, yes, Tony.
Mayor, I think for you and for Dr. Q, I emailed the spokesperson for Mayor Adams. From New York City's point of view, what is YPS obligation to the asylum-seeking children staying at the Ramada in terms of schooling? And the answer was, quote, "We are aiming to send families with children below school age." Your immediate reaction to that, and then a technical question to you, Dr. Quezada, below school age, what does that mean in this day of pre-K and 3K, from your point of view?
The operative word here is aiming. So there's always when you say aiming, that usually means a question mark. It usually means, well, maybe, we hope, just in case. So I'm not relying on that. I'm going to be prepared for whatever comes our way. Dr. Casada?
Thank you. Well, to your technical question of UPK 3, those young people are entitled to be in school, and the question is, do the community-based organizations in the city of Yonkers who are responsible for running UPK 3 for the district and for themselves, do they have the capacity to receive those new young people? But also as it relates to the adults that are here, if they are to become active members in this community, and if you're going to be here for a year, you have to become an active member of this community, then we have to find a way of providing adult education to them, and we are prepared to do so. We just need to understand what the long-term plan is.
So just to drill down into that, an asylum seeker who's at the hotel with a 3-year-old child is entitled to try to enroll that child in UPK 3 here?
If you come to our student enrollment department, it is our responsibility to register those young people as students of the Yonkers Public Schools.
At age 3?
At age 3, except that it's not a compulsory grade, but it is something that those young people need the most. I mean, remember what they have dealt with, remember their experiences. So if we can get them into a structured environment where learning is part of the process, that might be the best thing for those children. That will be the best thing for those children.
And your obligation to the children kicks in at what age? Kindergarten?
For us, it's pre-K, 4 years old.
We don't want to make life any more difficult for the asylum seekers than it currently is. We know they probably traveled 4 months to be here. They're here now. And like I said, now they're here, and we will be very good neighbors, and we will do the things that we ought to do as a city as diverse as ours. Yes?
When you bring up issues of money and funding and a plan to the state, to the county, to New York City, what are you hearing back? What responses are you hearing? Are you specifics or are you hearing general?
You know what? So far, the conversations have been good. They have been fruitful. And I expect that we'll hear more out of Albany soon, and obviously we'll continue to work with New York City. New York City has assured us that this is the only hotel that they are currently have in our city, and that they are looking to, I guess, share the number of people around the suburban areas. Anybody else?
And the New York Post is reporting that there were at least 2 homeless families that were finding accommodation at the hotel who have been moved out because the hotel now is for asylum seekers. Any follow-up with those families?
Yeah, we heard about at least one of them, but I'll check up on the 2, and we're looking into that now. I mean, I certainly didn't like to hear that at all, but we're looking at that.
And kind of related to what Sean asked, as you look at the landscape and you see what the president's saying, what the White House is saying, what the governor is saying, what Albany is saying, what the mayor is saying, how hopeful are you that sometimes it takes a crisis to really galvanize action? Some people feel this has gotten to the point of crisis. Certainly the mayor of New York City has used that word to describe the situation. How hopeful are you that this is what galvanizes action?
Yeah, without speaking too global, I'm trying not to, because it's obviously something that's very local right now because it's directing us effectively, but it is a global issue when you think about it. You think about what's happening on the world stage, and you think about individuals that are walking months at a time to be here. What's going on where they're living, and what are we doing as a nation to deal with that? You know, we talk about Russia, we talk about China, we talk about their influence, we talk about the expansions, and we think about what's happening here in the Western Hemisphere. God, it's something we have to pay attention to, because before you know it, I mean, you can walk here, but it's going to be right on our borders and right on top of us, and we have to deal with the refugees as a symptom. The problems, as you know, deal with economics and what's happening in those countries, and the economics is something that has to be dealt with at a national and world level. I'm hopeful that will happen, and then in the meantime, we have a crisis to deal with here in New York, The governor, I think, has rightfully so made funding available to New York City to help them. I believe in New York. I have to. We're in Yonkers. We want New York City to do well, because if they do well, we do well. But at the same time, we cannot expect a government, a big government, to just export their issues to each and every one of us and expect that we're going to have the money to pay for it, because we won't.
One more question for Tony.
Mayor, having spent a lot of years in Albany, the mayor of New York City keeps saying New York City is paying for the food, the shelter, the services. New York City got $8 billion from Albany to cover some of these expenses. No doubt local city funds are going to it as well. Do you view this way, or is this state and city money paying for this?
No, this is state taxpayer money, and it's my opinion that while that money, those monies will go to New York City, that it should go to New York City. I don't believe that it's going to New York City just so they can export families to other communities. It's going to New York City to help deal with the crisis. And dealing with the crisis is coming up with a plan. And dealing with the crisis is giving the funding necessary to support that plan. And that's what we're lacking right now, and that's the type of leadership we need, and it has to happen at the state level.
Thank you.
Mayor, do you have the facilities, do you have the room to take even more people if they want to come in?
That, I told you, that hotel has the capacity for 100 people. For 100 rooms. Whatever that means in terms of people is, I guess you'd have to check with the fire department on that. But but what we're being told right now, 14 families, 38 individuals, mostly women with young children, and like I said, and they're here. We're going to treat them right, and we're going to do what we're supposed to do as a loving community. But at the same time, I need you all to know, those who brought them here need to help us do what we need to do to be compassionate and to get the job done. Thanks, everybody.